Hello, everybody. Do I have to unmute my mic?
No, you're good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Just a friendly reminder, as we start the session, if you could just please keep your mics on mute, that would be great. And there's going to be plenty of time for questions. So find your chat button there. Let's practice right now. Can everybody send me a KK? Are you there with me?
Yep, you're good.
There you go. That's good. We got to practice. I'm Melody Deeley, the Counseling Foundations Director here at Summit Pacific College. And some of you have been in my sessions in other Historymaker events, as well as at more events. And just a shout out to all of the Summit alumni that are out there. Welcome to the session. Happy Saturday. We're just going to look at some mental health things and some advice and some encouragement, hopefully, for you as we look at what life is presently like in our new COVID sort of reality here in BC and across Canada and in the world. When I think about mental health in the time of COVID, getting peace and calm in the time of COVID, I just have to look at our family situation. We live in a condo that's basically 3 rooms, okay? So there's my husband, myself, and our teenager who just turned 18. His name is Alfie. He has given me permission to talk to him talk about him a little bit today, because in some ways that's my COVID context, and each of you have your own COVID context. Some of you are living in larger houses. Some of you are living in apartments. Some of you are living with your dad. Some of you are living with your mom and stepdad. Some are living with grandparents. There's just a variety of different household situations. And I think about the whole household situation because the other day I said to our son, who, as I said, is 18. He had his birthday last Sunday, and I said to him, do you realize, Alfie, that you haven't been out of our apartment or our condo in like 11 weeks? And his answer to me was, well, Mom, where is there to go? And that's a pretty good sentiment, considering that, I was starting to brainstorm, well, how can I get him out of the house? How can I get him out of the house? And I realized that it's difficult for us to go anywhere because we've been basically told to stay at home. And I was thinking, well, maybe I could take him grocery shopping. And then you get to the grocery shopping store and it says limit of 1 person per family can go shopping. And so really there hasn't been a lot of places for us to go, for you as youth and young adults and adults to go. And thankfully the province is opening up a little and there can be a little bit more hope, but there's been a lot of stress and a lot of just staying put and trying to make the best out of our situations the last 11 weeks. I say 11 weeks because a lot of the kids or youth, when they left school, didn't realize that their break would extend for as long as it did. And so our contexts have changed a lot in our COVID situation. My son is also graduating this year. And there are a lot of you out there that are graduating this year as well. And I remember in February talking to some of you about what you were going to wear to prom. And very excited, you'd spent $500 on this, or you had spent $800 on that. Like some are dresses, some are suits. And all of that's been in flux, and you haven't really known what to do with that. We just got information from our school district that there will be graduation for some of the for the grade 12s, but it's going to look really different too. So our COVID context has really kept the stress levels up in our bodies, and it has been affecting our mental health, whether we want to admit it or not. It's an interesting time for all of us. And so we thought it was very relevant to have a little bit of a discussion today about how to maintain peace and calm during COVID-19. In scripture, it says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And you find that in Proverbs 13:12. And for a lot of you, a lot of different things that you hope for, whether that was prom, or whether that was graduation, or whether that was just going and being with certain people that you want to be with, like talk about not being able to be with your friends. Even how many of you have worked hard all year to be able to go to Historymaker? And now Historymaker, you're not even with your friends. Right now, you should be squished up at the front of the stage, going crazy for Jesus, you know? But instead, we're doing our best. We're working with what we can, but hope deferred can make the heart sick. And our heart is the wellspring of life, and it affects our mental health depending on how many disappointments, how much stress it is that you've felt over these last months. And so as we look at things, I just want to encourage you today that we've gotten through some of it, and we're going to get through the rest of it, and that the Lord is a very present help in time of trouble, and he's there with you. And I hope that you feel him there with you as we talk today. And I hope that you sense his presence very clearly as we talk about different things you can do, different things that can maybe encourage you. I have a sister who lives by herself, and wow, it's hard when you begin to feel as lonely as self-isolation and physical distancing can make you feel. There's something that around here at Summit we kind of laugh at once in a while. It's nothing to laugh at, but it's the fact that if a person doesn't get 12 meaningful touches in a day, they can suffer from touch deprivation. Okay, well, think about our context. We're probably not being touched in a special caring way every day, 12 times. And so it's beginning, and it can potentially really have some implications on our mental health. Let's talk a little bit about what the body feels when it's under significant stress or being stressed out all the time. Because even if you listen, I don't know if any of you guys have gone online or been listening to any of the things that are being said on news feeds or whatever, but the contradiction in some of the information that we get and some of the negative content that is there, conversations that are there, like, we really need to be careful what it is that we allow, information that we allow inside of our minds, because stress has a way of breaking down the body. Stress has a way of causing our body to be on hyper alert in such a way that it can affect our eating, it can affect our sleeping, it can affect our definitely can affect our moods. You know that. Like, every day I wake up and I think, okay, what's this day going to be like? Because for some of us, the stress causes our bodies to feel foggy. It causes us to not even want to get out of bed. Like, what's the point of getting out of bed? I don't really need to get out of bed, so let's not get out of bed. It causes us to, as I said, sometimes eat too much or maybe not eat enough. Stress has this incredible way of affecting us. When we think about stress in our bodies and the time of COVID and trying to adjust to the many different pieces of information that are coming to us about what to do and what not to do online, the other day in one of the news feeds, it had a comedian talking about the different directions that were given all the time regarding COVID, like do this, don't do this. And then the next day is, well, you can do this, but don't do this. And it can just, the amount of information and the amount of stress that it potentially can create for a person, it can get pretty trippy in our heads. So when we look at stress, three factors that universally lead to stress are uncertainty, the lack of information, and the loss of control. Well, as soon as I look at that list, I go, COVID, right? Like COVID, like that's what COVID does. It gives us uncertainty. It gives us information is changing every day. And there's definitely a sense of the loss of control. We can't do what we want to do. As I've gone out in the community, and especially as I've gone grocery shopping for our family, I've coined something called the COVID dance. You begin to walk down an aisle and someone's coming this way, so you back up and then you walk around like this. And it's kind of like there's this little COVID dance around every corner, like, oh, don't touch this, can't touch this. And some people are very worried. So you get people who are better dancers than others, but it can really begin to affect us, and the uncertainty, the lack of information, and the loss of control is definitely something that our bodies are having to process during this time. When you look at a definition of stress, you see that it is defined differently for each person. And it depends on your disposition, and it depends on your personal history. Like some of you, this time of life it's pretty much similar. Like it's not a big deal, or you're taking it in stride and there's no issues. You've already created a new routine because our bodies really crave routine. They like predictability, they like certainty, and there's no issue. But for others of you, depending on what your family situation is like, depending on how many people are in your household, locked down together, not that we're in a lockdown, but self-isolating together, it will depend on how it is that your disposition's able to handle that. Some people need a lot of space. Some people need lots of people in their space. So depending on how many brothers and sisters you have, depending on if grandma and grandpa are living with you, it all depends on that will give you some of the factors on whether you're more stressed out than others. And for some of you, it's awful. And for some of you, it doesn't really matter. Like I think of my son, Alfie, because there's 3 of us and there's 3 rooms and we've worked out our rotation, we're all happy. And he doesn't seem to worry about not having left the apartment for 11 weeks. As a matter of fact, we kind of bugged him a little bit the other week, and he says, well, maybe you should do some exercise. Maybe you should come out of the room a little bit more. So he's been trying to do that a little bit more. And the other day he was so proud because he walked out onto our deck and he said, see, Mom, I'm out of the house. Aren't you proud of me? And then he looked out into the sun and he says, but it's bright in here, so I'm going back in. And so everybody's different. Stress gets handled by everybody's body a little bit differently. So there can be stressors, but it depends on your history. So you can be sitting there going, oh, I'm the worst person in the world because I get stressed out about everything. No, it's not that. It's everybody's different, and that's okay. And hopefully before the end of our time together, you'll have a few hints on how to help yourself and the stress that you are presently feeling. Stress is a state of disharmony or threat. And a stressor is a threat, real or perceived, that tends to disturb or destabilize us. And again, I look at you and I think, isn't that COVID? Isn't that exactly where we're at? There's disharmony. There's for some of us a real threat. We might have grandparents that we're really scared for. We might have mom or dad or a brother or sister that, or even ourselves that are their immune systems are compromised. So everybody has a different amount of stress that this whole pandemic is causing. And depending on whether there are real threats, it doesn't even matter if it's true. Our perceptions are valid during this time, and we need to just be very kind to ourselves, caring to ourselves, and hopefully we can gain a little bit more understanding of things we can do, but also just gain a little bit more patience with ourselves as we work through this stressful time. This isn't going to be forever. That's one of the great things that we can look forward to is, yeah, it's going to take a while, but it's not going to be forever. And there are some things that we can learn about our self-care and about our mental health that can help us throughout our entire lives. This could be the beginning of working on some plans to help us as we move forward. Another thing that is happening during the time of COVID is a lot of anxiety. Stress causes anxiety, but anxiety is something that can be caught as well. We can catch it from other people. And as soon as people are thinking and worried, and, you know, I haven't even talked about the job situation. Like some of you might not be feeling a lot of the stress because mom and dad are still working or you're still working. But there are some of you where mom and dad aren't working. So often if the parents aren't okay, the kids aren't okay. And so in your homes, if all that sort of stress is going on, then that's another element that can add to mental health issues. Anxiety is when something has happened to us and we have determined that we will never feel out of control again. And we become hypervigilant and our stress response kicks in and there's a lot of angst and confusion, and our body just begins to get very hypervigilant and diligent to look around for things that could be harmful or not feel good, or just not some things that are wanted or anything like that. Anxiety can be brought about by thinking too much in the past. Like, oh no, I remember when dad was out of work before, this is what happened. So you're thinking too much in the past, or you're thinking too much in the future. Like for some of us, it's about what if. Well, what if this lasts forever? And what if this is something that is going to like stay with my family for like a decade? Or what if, and so getting a hold of anxiety is about helping ourselves to not think too much in the past and not think too much in the future, but to center ourselves on what's presently happening in our world, and how can we make that safe space that we have at home safer? How can we keep it? How can we take control of the particular time frame that we have and make it good? Have you ever heard of the concept of how to make a good day happen? How to set in your mind the night before the next day and say, okay, I'm going to get up in such and such a time, and I'm going to eat at such and such a time, and there's an activity that I want to do that I like to do, and I'm going to schedule that. That's part of some of the skills that hopefully we can talk about today to help you to work through and gain some normalcy back in your life. How to make a good day, how to bring about better routines in your life. Let's look at this slide. Every day during the time of COVID, every day as you're trying to work towards good emotional and mental health, it would be good to keep this slide handy. It's the emotional health battery, and do this kind of checklist. Where are you at with this checklist today? Are you feeling great? Well, if you're feeling great, then keep meeting your needs and practicing the self-care that you're presently doing. You're doing what it is that you need to do to keep your battery full. Okay? If you're feeling good, ask yourself this question. How can you maintain the level that you're currently at? How can you maintain the current emotional level that you're at? If you find yourself feeling okay, how can you make your day a tiny bit better? Like I've asked some people, I've been on Zoom calls and I've been on chats with lots of students, and a classic phone call goes like this. Well, how are you doing? I'm okay. You know, that seems to be the classic comment. Well, I would consider that as kind of like the feeling okay part here. And usually what I encourage them in the phone call to do is, you know, what is there that you can do to make your day a tiny bit better? Like, do you need to go out and take a walk? Like, have you not walked anywhere for the last 6 weeks? Well, if you are looking at your emotional battery there, maybe it's time to take a walk. If you've been walking every day, well, maybe it's time to call someone and do a physically distance walk in a huge park somewhere. So feeling okay, that's good, but that's where you begin to ask yourself, how can I make this day a tiny bit better? And then as we look at this emotional health battery, I've also talked to a lot of people where it's the answer when I said, so how's it going? Their answer is meh, you know, meh, not too well, Mel. And that's when you need to ask yourself, how can you love on yourself today? Oh, isn't that something to think about? How can I love on myself today? Like, what is she talking about? What is it that you need to do for yourself today? What thing are you thinking about yourself that maybe you should tell yourself, no, I'm not going to go there today. I'm not going to I'm not going to berate myself for not getting out of bed. I'm not going to tell myself that I'm lazy for not doing such and such, but I'm going to go and I'm going to get a nice glass of hot chocolate or a cup of hot chocolate. I'm going to make sure that I brush my teeth, and I'm going to get out of my pajama pants and I'm going to put on some sweatpants or some jeans. And I'm not going to say to myself, wow, your jeans are tight, but you're going to say to yourself, I'm okay today, and maybe tomorrow I'll take 2 walks instead of 1 because my pants are getting a little bit too tight. How can you love on yourself a bit today? How can you be extra kind to yourself? Because you know very well that the battle begins in the mind, right? It's like as soon as something goes wrong in the here and now, as soon as you wake up and you're a little bit grumpy because you've been under stress and everything's the same every day and there's nothing to look forward to, hope deferred is making your heart sick. You can't see your friends. Like I remember saying to Alfie, well, honey, what would you want to do? And I've said to other people when they're talking about, you know, summer vacation, and the question is, well, there's nothing to do. Well, when your brain is sitting there saying, well, there's nothing to do, you're right, there's nothing to do sometimes. But that doesn't stop you from saying, but you know what? You're okay. And it's going to be okay. And creating a space for you that's not like maybe you need to take out that garbage in your room that's been overflowing for the last 2 weeks so that you can feel a little bit cleaner. There are a lot of little things that you can do to love on yourself today and to help you to be a little extra kind to yourself today. Only you know your context, unfortunately. And maybe in the chat later, if you want, you can message me and we can have, I could even set up a call with you if you want. We're here to support you. We're here to try to give you some ideas and some hope. And then there's those of you that as you look at the emotional health battery, you're struggling. You're struggling. And it's time to practice some triage. What can you do to help your mental health? What can you do? What area of your life needs a little bit of a change? And that's what I was just talking about. Like, do you need to get out of those sweatpants? Do you need to go for that walk? Do you need to find a safe space by putting in some headphones and just going to a certain quiet place in your house? Like, what needs to shift? What needs to shift in order to help the struggle? And then the part where nobody wants to get, and that is the I'm empty part. And that's where probably you're going to need to contact, like you're going to need to talk to your parents, or you're going to need to talk to a mentor, or your youth pastor, someone for a little bit of extra help. But being aware of it is the first step. And so as you look at this emotional health battery, I hope that you can find yourself within it and have it as a reference point, because we're waking up every day at different points on this battery. Like some days we're walking on sunshine. We're very, very happy that we don't have to go anywhere, or that where we have to go is limited. Life's not complicated. And then other days we wake up and we're like, oh, when is this ever going to end? When is this ever going to end? You know, because there's something that we want to do that we can't necessarily do. And I know that like some of the stores are opening up again, and some of the service industries are opening up again. But even that looks a little bit different. So sometimes we get our hopes up, oh, I can go and get my hair cut, or I can do, but things are a little bit different. So every day will have still some challenges. And it's very important to assess and to look at this emotional health battery, and then, as I said before, do according to what it says. So are you still with me? Are you still with me? Hit the chat. KK. Are you still there? I'm not seeing any. Oh, there you are. There you go. You're still with me. All right. That's good. That's good. There are some things regarding our mental health that as we go through this time, we need to look out for. Okay, we need to look out for these types of things. And that is things like self-hate, self-invalidation. In other words, saying things about yourself like, well, I don't know anything. My opinion isn't important. I don't matter. Those sorts of things, because especially because we're just coming out of a time of self-isolation with COVID. There's a lot of opportunity for our brains to say things that aren't correct. Okay. And so sometimes because we've had no other input from anyone else, we've been all alone, we haven't had our 12 meaningful touches in a day, nobody's come and said, hey, how you doing? I make sure I go into Alfie's room every day, sometimes twice a day, and I at least, touch his leg or give him a high five, just so he has a bit of physical contact. Another thing you need to look out for is perfectionism. All of you guys are doing schoolwork, or you're trying to do some level of education. It's not going to be perfect, but it just needs to get done. Okay. And so if you're prone to perfectionism, if you're prone to like working for like an ideal at this time that might not be able to happen, calm yourself. Take some deep breaths and realize that for now, while every part of your being potentially might have been stressed out by the change in our normal situation due to COVID, it's okay to stand down a little bit. It's okay to take some deep breaths and not be quite as driven as you were before. For some of you, that's going to be so odd. It's going to be so not the way you roll. But things to watch out for during this time. That's one of them. And another thing is anger. Every time you want something and you can't have it, there's the potential that you might get angry, because anger is a blocked goal. You have something that you want, and when you can't get it, an automatic response is frustration, and if it festers enough, it can be anger. So watch out for that, because lots of things that we want are blocked. So instead of anger, just take a step back, realize, okay, obviously I wanted that, but I can't have that. So what is there an option? Is there some other thing that would work? And try to just not get as angry. And if you are angry, go out for a run, go out for a walk, do something physical. Because what that means is that your body is just overstressed, and our bodies were created that it needs motion in order to work out some of these negative emotions and some of these more stressful type of emotions. So watch out for the anger, watch out for bitterness towards others, like, well, those people, what are they doing? You know, like, as we analyze others, because we've got a lot of brain power and it needs to do something, so we're analyzing others, whether that's online or whether that's out your window, or whether that's if you've gone to a park or you walk, everybody's analyzing everybody else. So it's easy to get bitter towards others. It's easy to look at what you have and what others have and start to do comparison things, and next thing you know, bitterness can set in. So just be careful. Be careful. Take those deep breaths. Understand that things are moving in the right direction, that God really cares where you're at, and that you can bring him into your situation and he can help you with these things through praying, through listening to different worship music. And we're going to get into that in a second. Another thing to look out for is fragility and vulnerability. Like if you begin to get weepy or you begin to get moody, take some deep breaths, go for a walk, make sure you're eating. And I know for a lot of you, it's your sleeping habits that have been totally, completely, utterly turned upside down. Try to start setting the regular clock again. Try to get back to a routine, because sleeping is something that keeps us and our emotions regulated. So try to get back to your regular non-COVID routine of sleeping. Active avoidance. Well, you know one thing that's active avoidance, lots and lots of gaming and lots and screen time. And you're just actively avoiding anything that isn't something that can give you immediate pleasure. So be careful of that. Try to keep a balance. And then there's passive avoidance or disassociation, and that's escaping from reality and escaping into fantasy. Also, if you're finding that you're doing a lot of that, take a step back. Self-awareness is the first step. Do this type of assessment daily, and then say, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to put into my life so that I can move away from some of these behaviors that do not lead to good mental health? You know, sometimes we wish that they did, but because they're easy to fall into, but they really don't. And I can't stress enough the fact that if you are feeling and stressed out and you're turning to some of these things, all you got to say is, Jesus, help me not to do that. Help me, Holy Spirit, to not engage or not do this thing, and give me hope in another direction. And you know what? He'll do it. He is a very present help in time of trouble. Here are some activities to help decrease stress and anxiety. And one of the things that is key for me and key for Alfie and key for my husband even is to sing and worship, but also to move around while you're doing it. You know, there's more to the act of worship and to singing and than just, you know, using our mouths. It's a full body experience. And during the time of COVID and trying to maintain peace and calm, we got to be keenly engaged in raising our hands to the Lord, in listening to words that inspire us to lift our hearts and our minds and our eyes towards Him. And it's amazing the amount of stress that gets released from the body when you do that. Like, I one day was in my kitchen cooking supper, and I had my headphones in because some of my music the two guys don't like. I'm sure you can relate with other parental music, but they didn't want to hear it. So I'm there, and I'm just like, "You're an overcomer. You're an overcomer." And I was just so amazed at how that elevated my mental health. How it reminded me that I wasn't alone, even though we were in self-isolation and we were physically distancing from other people. You're never alone when you have worship and when you have the ability to sing and to jump around and to just go crazy for Jesus. It doesn't just have to happen at Historymaker. It can happen in your house. And it's amazing the amount of negative, angsty stuff that it can remove from your body. And another thing that you can do is you can, like if you have an animal, there's a lot of research that petting and hugging your animal and stroking your animal is incredible mental health advantages. But some of us don't have pets. And so another thing that you can do is you can, this is going to sound kind of silly, but for those of you who haven't been around people in a long time and you're feeling the effects of physical distancing, you can hug your pillow, you can throw an extra blanket around yourself, you can take a blanket, you can wrap it around yourself twice. Like, it's about the feeling of pressure on our body that helps to release hormones that cause us to be less stressed. And you can perform a generous act, you can write a note, you can send a letter, you can make a call, you can, as I said before, you can pray and ask the Lord to help you and to make Himself known to you in that moment. You can make positive eye contact, and that can even happen sometimes through virtual chats. One of the best sounds that I have coming out of my son's room is when I hear him laughing because he's in a group studying for his physics or chemistry or whatever group studies that he has, and they've just been chatting back. Get one of those people or get a group of people online and do that. It's great for your mental health. It brings peace and calm during the time of COVID. Or if you are good at doing that and you have friends that aren't, do a generous act by inviting them into that situation. Think about your youth groups. Who is better at initiating and who isn't? Those that are better at initiating, it's going to do your mental health good to initiate, and it's going to do their mental health good by you drawing them in. So it's a win-win thing. So that's another thing that you can do to help decrease stress and anxiety. Another thing you can do, and I've mentioned it a couple of times because it's key, but for some people they hate doing it, and that is exercise. Your body, when it has a lot of stress hormone in it, because of the different situations that we've been in, it craves movement. And so even if that's just, doing anything, just even bending over or stretching in any sort of way is beneficial to work out some of the stress hormone that's in your body. And of course, when you think of the more extreme, which some of us just shy away from, running and biking, like they say that the bike stores are very, very busy, okay? But that might not be for some of us. But even if it's just going like this, moving is important, and exercise is important as you're trying to decrease stress and anxiety in your life. Hydration is so important during this time. Like, isn't it crazy that so much of this stuff, so much information that helps us with the stress and remaining calm has to do with our bodies? right? And so the drinking water and hydration is very important. And then, laughing as much as possible. What's that all about? It releases a chemical in your body that just helps you de-stress. So I know from some of what my husband does and some of what my son's been doing, there's a lot of stuff online that's funny. Now, part of going online is also potential for mental health issues. So watch your screen time, but at the same time, recognize that if you can find something that's legitimately funny, laughing can really help and bring peace and calm in the time of COVID. Some small but significant lifestyle changes that help are as follows. Now, this stuff might seem like, I do this already, Mel, or you could be thinking, whatever, it's overrated. But setting up a routine is very important. And part of routine is, making your bed every morning, screen time, and being put into hyper alert every time your phone goes off isn't healthy for mental health. So keeping your phone on silent and you being the one in charge of when you look at it, not it dictating when you look at it, that's very important. And then being open to others about how you're feeling. Even if it's just one other person, you got to remain accountable. It's just a good mental health strategy. As well, there's spending less time on social media, watching other people, and that's when, the getting a little bit bitter can go in there, or feeling like you're less because your news feed isn't the same as some others, or your Instagram posts aren't the same as others. It's when the comparing thing starts. And so we've got to really watch that as well. And then, as I've said, again, doing some type of physical activity. Now, we said that we wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions and a bit of chat time. So I don't know, does anybody have a question regarding any of what I've said today as far as maintaining peace and calm in the time of COVID? Have you found this information helpful? Is there anything that you'd like clarified in any sort of way? I just want to leave you with 2 verses, okay? Just 2 verses. And they're ones that help me out a lot when I'm going through seasons of mental health challenges, or times when things are just more meh than good when it comes to my emotional battery. And those 2 verses, one is Isaiah 26, verses 3 and 4. And those verses say, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock." Especially when I don't really know why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling, or I know, but there's no way for me to change it. He keeps me in perfect peace because I keep my focus on him. When I said to talk to you about anxiety, thinking too much in the past or thinking too much in the future, staying in the here and now, staying in the day, in the present, we do that because we know that God is there, and we keep our mind stayed on him, and then he brings the peace. And then the second verse is Matthew 11:28. And I'm sure a lot of you know it. It's the come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. During this time, the greatest rest we can find is in Jesus, because he hasn't changed. And he's with us every single second of the day. And all you got to do is say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And he's there. I've said to my son, Alfie, I said, are you still praying every night? He's 18. Like, come on. He's got his own life, right? He goes, Mom, I pray every day. And I say the Lord's Prayer every day. I was blessed by that, because I know that if he does that, then he's keeping his mind, regardless of all of the other stuff that happens in the day. At the end of the day, he's committing his life to Jesus. He's asking Jesus for help. And that's where the peace comes in the time of COVID. That's where the calm comes in the time of COVID, because there's so many different messages out there. But we have the greatest message, and that is that he will never leave us nor forsake us, that he is with us all the time, and that he will keep us in perfect peace because we trust in him, and he is our rock, and he is our salvation. So I'd just like to pray with you, and then if there are questions, we'll take them, but it seemed like everybody was content to leave it there. So let me just pray with you. Father, I just thank you for these individuals. I thank you that they are desirous to hear about you and how to work with their mental health during this time of uncertainty in our communities and in our world. And Father, just speak to each and every one of them right now and remind them that you got this, you're all over this, that you are with them. Speak the name of Jesus and just recognize how much he's there with you. And Father, I just pray that you would just shine your light on each of them. That those that wake up or have woken up this morning and things are meh, that you would just give them a little bit of insight as to how to be kinder to themselves, how to slip away and gain a little bit of peace by themselves, what piece of music to listen to for encouragement. Provide what it is that they need, Lord. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. Bless you. Bless you. And thank you for being with us today. There is a question.
Yeah, somebody asked advice on dealing with anxiety of getting back into normal social interaction.
Yes. Okay. The question of anxiety with trying to get back into regular social, away from social isolation. And it's baby steps. You need to do what's comfortable for you, but yet still do something. Okay? Like, you could be totally freaked out, but go outside for 10 minutes. It's kind of like reacclimatizing yourself. You certainly wouldn't go and jump into the middle of a pool if you didn't know how to swim. Okay? So go to the edge of the pool, dip your feet in the water a bit, and then leave. Like, be gentle with yourself. Take very small steps. And before you know it, you'll be able to go further in 1 week than you did at the beginning of the week. Others, they're not going to have any problems with this, but you are an individual. Everybody's got their own thresholds of tolerance regarding their anxiety levels. And as long as you're progressing incrementally, a little bit at a time, consider that success. Consider that success. So just very slowly, but yet still a little bit each day as opportunities arise. Like I know for some of you, June 1st is school. Well, some of you are going to choose not to go back, and that's okay. Some of you, you might choose to go just once, and that would be enough. So depending on what is concerning you regarding what is holding you back, you might need to talk to someone about that. But as long as you're proceeding in a direction that's slowly, incrementally more than the day before or the week before, you should consider that a success. It's not going to be an immediate switch. I went to an appointment yesterday where I needed a mask, and I don't do masks very well. And I had to calm myself down. Like I put the mask on and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Like I don't do masks. I get very claustrophobic. And I had to say, okay, if you have to cancel, cancel, but at least try it for 1 minute. Slow yourself for 1 minute. Deep breath. Okay, out. Like just stay, concentrate on the mask. Concentrate on your breathing. Just calm yourself a little bit. And then it wasn't so bad. I kind of regulated myself a little bit. But I told myself, okay, go for 5 minutes. If you can't go for 5 minutes, then you can leave. So the moral of that story as well is don't jump into the middle of the pool right away. Don't go to a place where they're going to require you to wear a mask for over an hour or over even half an hour if you're still practicing wearing it for 5 minutes. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions? Any questions, David? Okay, well, good to go, and bless you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there is a question.
What is the first verse reference you talked about?
The first verse reference was Proverbs, and it was Proverbs, let me just find it. Proverbs 13:12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And yeah, some people's hopes, and that's where the grief comes in. Like there's definitely been grief during this time. Lots of people have not been able to do what they hoped that they would do. And it's okay to grieve. It's okay to grieve. Proverbs 13:12, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. Any other questions? Well, we'll sign off. Bless you. Have a good rest of the day. Bye for now.